If you're a fan of Stranger Things, you'll recognize that this monster is a Demogorgon. But you've probably never seen one quite like this. Welcome to Jeremy Telford's world, where everything can be built with balloons.
You can create just about anything out of them. It's inflatable Etch-a-Sketch.
He's made a ton of cool stuff, including a 65-foot-long record-breaking balloon dog.
It used 8,867 balloons, and it took me 80 hours. I worked 15-hour days and another 5 hours on the very last day.
The Guinness Book of World Records awarded Telford's pink dog the title for largest balloon sculpture in 2015, shattering the previous world record by over 5,000 balloons.
The world record balloon dog took me about 2 weeks to plan. I did it all on paper. And with a calculator, I drew it out. I had to know circumference and area, all sorts of stuff in order to plan the number of balloons. I got very specific in drawing out exactly what it was going to look like and how much time I thought it was going to take. It took a lot of math. So if you're going into balloon twisting, you do need to know your math, especially geometry.
To twist at Telford's expert level, you need the right gear.
This balloon apron holds about 1,000 balloons, but at home, I have an inventory of about 500,000 balloons. And even with having 500,000, I typically order more balloons every couple months. So I have balloons that are different diameters. For example, this is called a 260 right here. When you blow it up, it has about a 2-inch diameter. This is 160. When you blow it up, you get about a 1-inch diameter. I also have 350s with 3-inch diameters.
Telford relies on a one-step floor pump for inflation.
There's hand pumps, pump about 5-6 times in order to get a balloon pumped. If you have a floor pump, it takes one pump. Obviously, you're going to save a little bit of time. If you're one of those crazy people, you can blow with your mouth. But after about 5, I get a splitting headache, so I don't do that anymore.
And then there are the gloves.
So the gloves help protect my skin because when I'm building for 10, 12 hours, the friction, it does not love you. And the reason for the Band-Aids is I need my thumb and my pointer finger to be able to feel the balloons and stuff while I'm building. The rest of the fingers, not as much. So I can keep those covered with the gloves.
And when he needs to take down a lot of balloons in a hurry, he reaches for what he says is the best tool.
I took a weed whacker and I just went at that balloon until we ran out of the thread that the weed whacker uses. And I still had more of that dog left. And I was like, oh, what are we gonna do? And we just let the kids come in and they just destroyed the rest of it. It was so fun to watch.
Telford started balloon sculpting in college.
I first got into the balloon world when I met my wife at a juggling club in college. Her brother taught me how to make the small balloon animals at restaurants in order to pay for my degree. And I kind of took that and started making a little bit more than they were talking about, but I loved it so much that eventually started making world record size stuff.
During his career as a professional balloon artist, Telford's sculptures have gotten bigger and more intricate and more creative.
In 2013, I changed my living room into Bag End from The Hobbit. I took, I think, 3 days and about 2,600 balloons. It had a roof, it had walls, it had a fireplace, it had a table with apples in it, it had fire utensils like the poker and the billows. It was exhausting.
Telford's creativity doesn't stop at sculptures either. He even builds out full-on human-sized costumes out of nothing but balloons.
I started doing balloon costumes more than a decade ago. Our family celebrates little-known holidays. One of the ones we really celebrate is International Talk Like a Pirate Day. And we made it kind of tradition to build a giant balloon pirate costume. And we build about 20, 30 balloon swords, and we go out and any child that's willing to talk like a pirate, we'll hand them a balloon sword. It's just become a fun kind of family tradition.
He even recreated Van Gogh's Starry Night.
And that one was a little bit different because it uses mostly these round balloons. So I took Van Gogh's Starry Night and put it on the computer. I used Photoshop, and you can just kind of plug it out there. It's almost like working with pixels. And so you can put a dot here, it represents the balloons. It was 16 feet tall, 23 feet wide, I believe, when it was all done.
His favorite project allowed him to build room-sized balloon recreations of some of the world's great monuments, including the 7 Wonders of the World. He built the Statue of Zeus, Great Pyramid of Giza, Colossus of Rhodes, the Colosseum, the Great Wall of China, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, the Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, and a few others.
I got to go 6 days a week, 10 hours a day for 3 months straight, just building these magnificent sculptures. And I got to end on my favorite one. I built the Taj Mahal, and I was able to build just all these little details into it, and it just turned out so beautifully. It's probably my favorite sculpture that I've built.
Telford runs a balloon entertainment business in Utah and will stop at nothing for a client.
I do everything from your typical birthday party and a lot of county and state fairs. Then there'll be corporate events where I'll do any kinds of decor. Like any jobs, there are mornings when I wake up and I go, I'd rather just sleep. But 9 times out of 10, I'm excited, especially when I get to build something large and something new.
Like the Demogorgon he built for a Halloween party this year.
I decided to build the Demogorgon. This creature just, it's creepy. You know, I wanted something kind of creepy coming out at you. I always try and make some sort of a movement with the sculpture so that it feels like it's telling a story. That you look at it and you go, it was doing something before, you got it frozen in a moment. If you unfroze it, it would continue on doing whatever it was doing.
It took Telford about 6 hours and over 300 balloons to build this 7-foot-tall monster. He spent a lot of that time obsessing over the details.
But I'm thinking, if I could just add a little bit more detail, it might make it that much creepier. The Demogorgon, it had this kind of emaciated feel, kind of sunken in, kind of like it doesn't get enough to eat. So I knew I wanted to kind of create that, so I filled in areas with black so it would look, kind of give the impression of shadows, so you'd still get that kind of sunken in feeling.
And when it was time to build the monster's terrifying teeth, Telford cut no corners. To do that, he blows up one long white balloon, breaks off a section and ties it off, creating one tooth. Then he breaks off a little more, ties that off and creates another tooth, and so on. And
that's just simply blowing up balloons. Now I'm blowing them up. Now I pop. I get about 5 teeth every balloon I pump up. I'm gonna need, 40, 50 teeth on this thing. So to break up the monotony, I'll make 10 teeth and then I add those 10 teeth to the mouth. And I go back and make another 10 teeth and add those 10 teeth to the mouth.
In the final few minutes of the build, Telford adds on even more details.
So I'm taking these clear balloons and I'm just kind of draping them on the Demogorgon and trying to give the idea of kind of this jewel that he has. And now we have our finished Demogorgon. It's creepy and reaching out, ready to grab you. I got this kind of compulsive need to add these details, so it's so important that I get this. The more you can put on there, the more people just go like, how do you do that out of balloons?
Telford has spent years perfecting his technique. One thing he does is adjust the length of balloons by popping one end and tying it off.
When you're building balloon sculptures, it's hard to know exactly how much you need to pump them up. Like you're making the fingers or the toes, and you've just got way too much balloon. And there's a way you can pull the balloon apart, tie the part you want, and get rid of the rest. Use the scraps to tie things in later.
When his hands are full tying several balloons together, he takes advantage of things like his elbows and his chin.
A lot of times you're going to tie more than one bubble together at once. You only have 2 hands, but you have a ton of places you can hold a balloon on your body. You can hold them under your arms, you can hold them under your chin, you can hold them under your elbow. Press the balloon against your body. It keeps them from untwisting as you're going until you can twist it back into itself. That's one of the keys with balloons, is it always has to kind of twist back into itself or it'll unravel.
And a lot can go wrong.
One thing you get attuned to is you can hear this subtle it's a very disheartening sound. Or you hear balloons shifting on each other, and they'll make these little squeaks. And you know the only reason that they're shifting is because something is deflating and letting other things move.
Telford has a tremendous amount of pride in his work. He plans to continue to push the boundaries on what can be built using only balloons for as long as he can.
You will run across people that just don't get it. They'll look at your work and they'll be like, why don't you do something useful? Why don't you learn accounting, or why don't you, become an engineer? And I look at them and I go, you know what? The world has a lot of accountants. The world has a lot of engineers. You know what they don't have? They don't have a lot of people that can twist sculptures like this. If you take art out of the world, if you take, music, if you take painting, and yes, even if you take balloons out of the world, you're going to make it less. There's not going to be as much fun, as much joy, as much of that whimsy. They're squishy, shiny, colorful, and they squeak. And then when you can make things out of it, there's just something magical about that.